Hi, guys, and welcome to another session of Percy Jackson Read Aloud. We left off in a section in which Hades is talking to Percy Jackson is talking to Hades, and he's saying how war shouldn't start for humans, and Hades is actually saying that he's not the one who wants the war. He believes that Percy does have the lightning bolt, and he believes that Percy also has his helm. And then finally, he knows that he came to barter for his mom. He explodes a gold ball that he has in his hands, and there stands Percy's mom, just as she had the moment the Minotaur started to squeeze her. So let's continue. I couldn't speak. I reached out to touch her. But the light was as hot as a bonfire. Yes, Hades said with satisfaction. I took her. I knew, Percy Jackson, that you would come to bargain with me eventually. Return my helm, and perhaps I will let her go. She's not dead, you know, not yet. But if you displease me, that will change. I thought about the pearls in my pocket. Maybe they could get me out of this. If I could just get my mom free. Ah, the pearls, Hades said, and my blood froze. Yes, my brother and his little trick. Bring them forth, Percy Jackson. My hands moved against my will and brought out the pearls. Only 3, Hades said. What a shame. You do realize each only protects a single person. Try to take your mother, then, little godling. Try to take your mother, then, little godling. And which of your friends will you leave behind to spend eternity with me? Go on, choose, or give me the backpack and accept my terms. I looked at Annabeth and Grover. Their faces were grim. We were tricked, I told them. Set up. Yes, but why? Annabeth asked. And the voice in the pit. I don't know yet, I said, but I intend to ask. Decide, boy, Hades yelled. Percy, Grover put his hand on my shoulder. You can't give him the bolt. I know that. Leave me here, he said. Use the 3rd pearl on your mom. No, I'm a satyr, Grover said. We don't have souls like humans do. He can torture me until I die, but he won't get me forever. I'll just be reincarnated as a flower or something. It's the best way. No, Annabeth drew her bronze knife. You two go on, Grover. Grover, you have to protect Percy. You have to get your searcher's license and start your quest for Pan. Get his mom out of here. I'll cover you. I plan to go down, fighting. No way, Grover said. I'm staying behind. Think again, goat boy, Annabeth said. Stop it, both of you. I felt like my heart was being ripped in two. They had both been with me through so much. I remembered Grover dive-bombing Medusa in the statue garden, and Annabeth saving us from Cerberus. We'd survived Hephaestus' Waterland ride, in the St. Louis Arch, the Lotto Casino. I had spent thousands of miles worried that I'd be betrayed by a friend, but these friends would never do that. They had done nothing but to save me, over and over, and now they wanted to sacrifice their lives for my mom. I know what to do, I said. Take these. I handed them each a pearl. Annabeth said, But Percy. I turned and faced my mother. I desperately wanted to sacrifice myself and use the last pearl on her, but I knew what she would say. She would never allow it. I had to get the bolt back to Olympus and tell Zeus the truth. I had to stop the war. She would never forgive me if I saved her instead. I thought about the prophecy made at the Half-Blood Hill, what seemed like 1,000,000 years ago. You will fail to save what matters the most in the end. I'm sorry, I told her. I'll be back. I'll find a way. The smug look on Hades' face faded. He said, Godling? I'll find your helm, Uncle, I told him. I'll return it. Remember about Charon's pay raise. Do not defy me. And it wouldn't hurt to play with Cerberus once in a while. He likes red rubber balls. Percy Jackson, you will not, I shouted. Now, guys! We smashed the pearls at our feet. For a scary moment, nothing happened. Hades yelled, Destroy them! The army of skeletons rushed forward, swords out, guns clicking to full automatic. The Furies lunged, their whips bustling into flames. Just as the skeletons opened fire, the pearl fragments at my feet exploded with a burst of green light and a gust of fresh sea wind. I was encased in a milky white sphere which was starting to float off the ground. Annabeth and Grover were right behind me. Spears and bullets sparked harmlessly of the pear bubbles as we floated up. Hades yelled with such rage the entire fortress shook, and I knew it was not going to be a peaceful night in LA. Look up, Grover yelled. We're going to crash. Sure enough, we were racing right towards the stalactites, which I figured would pop our bubbles. How do you control these things? Annabeth shouted. I don't think you do, I shouted back. We screamed as the bubbles slammed into the ceiling, and darkness. Were we dead? No, I could still feel the racing sensation. We were going up, right through the solid rock, as easily as an air bubble in the water. That was the power of the pearls, I realized. What belongs in the sea will always return to the sea. For a moment, I couldn't see anything outside the smooth walls of my sphere. Then my pearl broke through the ocean floor. The other two milky spheres, Annabeth and Grover, kept pace with me as we soared upward through the water, and kerblam! We exploded on the surface in the middle of Santa Monica Bay, knocking a surfer off his board with an indignant, "Dude!" I grabbed Grover and hauled him over to a lifebuoy. I caught Annabeth and dragged her over too. A curious shark was circling us, a great white about 11 feet long. I said, "Beat it." The shark turned and raced away. The surfer screamed something about bat mushrooms and paddled away from us as fast as he could. Somehow, I knew what time it was. Early morning, June 21st, the day of the summer solstice. In the distance, Los Angeles was on fire, plumes of smoke rising from neighborhoods all over the sky. There had been an earthquake all right, and it was Hades' fault. He was probably sending an army of the dead after me right now. But at the moment, the underworld wasn't my biggest problem. I had to get to shore. I had to get Zeus's thunderbolt back to Olympus. Most of all, I had to have a serious conversation with the god who tricked me. That's the end of the chapter, and I'm going to start another one. It is called I Battle My Jerk Relative. A Coast Guard boat picked us up, but they were too busy to keep us for long, or to wonder how 3 kids in street clothes had gotten out into the middle of the bay. There was a disaster to mop up. The radios were jammed with distress calls. They dropped us off at the Santa Monica Pier with towels around our shoulders and water bottles that said, "I'm a junior Coast Guard," and sped off to save more people. Our clothes were sopping wet, even mine. When the Coast Guard boat had appeared, I silently prayed they wouldn't pick me out of the water and find me perfectly dry, which might have raised some eyebrows. So I willed myself to get soaked, and sure enough, my usual waterproof magic had abandoned me. I was also barefoot, because I'd given my shoes to Grover. Better the Coast Guard wonder why one of us was barefoot than wonder why one of us had hooves. After reaching dry land, we stumbled down to the beach, watching the city burn against a beautiful sunrise. I felt as if I'd just come back from the dead, which I had. My backpack was as heavy with Zeus's master bolt. My heart was even heavier from seeing my mother. "I don't believe it," Annabeth said. "We went all that way." "It was a trick," I said, "a strategy worthy of Athena." "Hey," she warned, "you don't get it, do you?" "No, I'm sorry. You get it, don't you?" She dropped her eyes, her anger fading. "Yeah, I get it." "Well, I don't," Grover complained. "Would somebody—" "Percy," Annabeth said. "I'm sorry about your mother. I'm so sorry." I pretended not to hear her. If I talked about my mother, I was going to start crying like a little kid. "The prophecy was right," I said. "You shall go west and face the god who has churned." But it wasn't Hades. Hades didn't want war among the big 3. Someone else pulled off the theft. Someone stole Zeus's master bolt and Hades' helm, and frayed me because I'm Poseidon's kid. Poseidon will be blamed on both sides. By sundown today, there will be a three-way war, and I'll have caused it. Grover shook his head, mystified. But who would be that sneaky? Who would want that war? Who would want war that bad? I stopped in my tracks, looking down at the beach. Gee, let me think. There he was, waiting for us, in his black leather duster and his sunglasses, an aluminum baseball bat propped on his shoulder. His motorcycle rumbled beside him, its headlight churning the sand red. Hey, kid, Aries said, seeming genuinely pleased to see me. You were supposed to die. You tricked me, I said. You stole the helm and the master bolt. Aries grinned. Well, now, I didn't steal them personally. Gods taking each other's symbols of power, that's a big no-no. But you're not the only hero in this world who can run errands. Who did you use? Clarice? She was there at the winter solstice. The idea seemed to amuse him. Doesn't matter. The point, kid, is you're impeding the war effort. See, you've got to die in the underworld. Then, old Seaweed would be mad at Hades for killing you. Corpse Breath will have Zeus's master bolt, and so Zeus will be mad at him, and Hades is still looking for this. From his pocket, he took out a ski cap, the kind bank robbers wear, so like one of those face masks that only have, and placed it between the handlebars of his bike. Immediately, the cap transformed into an elaborate bronze war helmet. The Helm of Darkness, Grover gasped. Exactly, Ares said. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, Hades will be mad at both Zeus and Poseidon because he doesn't know who took this. Pretty soon, we got a nice little three-way slugfest going. But they're your family, Annabeth protested. Ares shrugged. Best kind of war. Always the bloodiest. Nothing like watching your relatives fight, I always say. You gave me the backpack in Denver, I said. The master bolt was in there all along. Yes and no, Ares said. It's probably too complicated for your little mortal brains to follow, but the backpack is the master bolt's sheath, just morphed a bit. The bolt is connected to it, sort of like the sword you got, kid. It always returns to your pocket, right? I wasn't sure how Ares knew about that, but I guess the god of war had to make it his business to know about weapons. Anyway, Ares continued, I tinkered with the magic a bit so the bolt would only return to the sheath once you reached the underworld. You get close to Hades, bingo, you've got mail. If you died along the way, no loss. I still have the weapon. But why not just keep the master bolt for yourself? I said. Why send it to Hades? Ares got a twitch in his jaw. For a moment, it was almost as if he were listening to another voice deep inside his head. Why didn't I? Yeah, with that kind of firepower. He held the trance for 1 second, 2 seconds. I exchanged nervous looks with Annabeth. Ares' face cleared. I didn't want the trouble. Better to have you caught red-handed holding the thing. You're lying, I said. Sending the bolt to the underworld wasn't your idea, was it? Of course it was. Smoke drifted up from his sunglasses as if they were about to catch fire. You didn't order the theft, I guessed. Someone else sent a hero to steal the 2 items. Then, when Zeus sent you to hunt him down, you caught the thief, but you didn't turn him over to Zeus. Something convinced you to let him go. You kept the items until another hero would come along and complete your delivery. That thing in the pit is ordering you around. I am the god of war. I take orders from no one. I don't have dreams. I hesitated. Who said anything about dreams? Ares looked agitated, but he tried to cover it up with a smile. Let's get back to the problem at hand, kid. You're alive. I can't have you taking that bolt to the Olympus. You might just get those hard-headed idiots to listen to you. So I've come to kill you, nothing personal. He snapped his fingers. The sand exploded at his feet, and out charged a wild boar, even larger and uglier than the one whose head hung above the door of cabin 7 at Camp Half-Blood. The beast pawed at the sand, glaring at me with beady eyes, as it lowered its sharp razor-sharp tusks and waited for the command to kill. I stepped into the surf. Fight me yourself, Ares. He laughed, but I heard a little edge to his laughter. An uneasiness. You've only got one talent, kid, running away. You run from the Chimera, you run from the underworld, you don't have what it takes. Scared. In your adolescent dreams. But his sunglasses were starting to melt from his eyes. No direct involvement, kid. Sorry, you're not at my level. Annabeth said, Percy, run! The giant boar charged, but I was done running from monsters, or Hades, or Ares, or anybody. As the boar rushed me, I uncupped my pen and sidestepped. Riptide appeared in my hands. I slashed upward. The boar's severed right tusk fell at my feet, while the disoriented animal charged into the sea. I shouted, Wave! And immediately